Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this morning's business education series with Downtown SLO. My name is Bettina Swigger, and I am the CEO of Downtown SLO. And I'd like to invite our board president, Laura Mullen, to just say a few words of welcome.
Hi, everybody. I am just thrilled that you were able to make time to join our resumption of our Downtown SLO business education series. We kind of had a hiatus last year on many things, this included, and I think we're really kicking it off with a great topic on downtown homelessness. It is something, while it does not affect us the way it is affecting people that actually are homeless, it does impact us in the downtown area. And it not only impacts us as business owners, I'm involved with Humankind Fair Trade on Monterey Street, but our customers and even those of us as residents as we come downtown. We really have a stellar lineup of experts in this area, and they're going to really tell us about some of the programs that are already underway that are helping our unhoused community, and specifically some things that are going on in our downtown core. So I really appreciate everyone being here, and hopefully what you learned today, you will take back to some of your neighboring businesses who maybe couldn't be here. So thanks a bunch, and thanks for being here.
Thank you, Laura. We appreciate you and we welcome you into your new role. Laura is the new president as of April 1st. So this is an exciting lineup that we have today, and there's a lot of very complex information. So we invite you to concentrate on the screen. I know it can be hard sometimes when we're multitasking, but I think there's some really solid information that you're going to want to really take into consideration. Some of the rules of engagement for today, we'd like you to remain muted just so we don't have any of the background noise that can be distracting. And we're gonna ask you to save questions until the end of the presentations this morning. There's a lot of information that's gonna come at you, and we wanna make sure that you feel that maybe some of your questions get answered along the way. We will have adequate time at the end of the presentations for Q&A, and at that time, we're going to ask you to use chat to ask your question, and then we may call on you to clarify if we have any considerations about additional information from the question you ask. If you prefer to ask your question anonymously, you can chat me at Bettina Swigger or Rachel Maiorino, who is with Downtown SLO, and she is the co-host of today's Zoom meeting. We chose today to have a regular Zoom meeting format instead of a webinar because we wanted to see the faces of all the business owners who are participating. So we thank you for being with us today. And I just wanted to share a little bit about what your Downtown SLO Business Association is doing for the issue of homelessness. And I thought it would be great to start out with a quote, and this one rings true for me. I have yet to see any problem, however complicated, which when looked at in the right way, did not become still more complicated. This is a quote from Paul Anderson, who was a science fiction writer. And while I don't think any of the other speakers today will be referring to science fiction writers, in many ways, we did feel like we were living through a science fiction reality once the COVID-19 pandemic hit. So our Downtown SLO is part of a network of other downtown associations. And I'm here to tell you that this is predominantly the #1 issue other than COVID-19 economic recovery that is being discussed at all of these different sessions that we participate in. We are a member of the International Downtown Association. That is a group that serves a lot of large urban centers with large districts and many skyscrapers, hundreds of city blocks in their downtowns. We're also part of the California Main Street Alliance and the National Main Street Center, which focuses more on small downtowns. Every single community and every single downtown is facing challenges regarding more people being unhoused and seeing the issues that brings to the businesses and to the residents in a downtown environment. What's interesting as well is to think about when COVID-19 hit, whether we actually saw an increase in the number of people who are experiencing homelessness, or if it was the removal of the everyday people who are the commuters and the customers and the workers coming into downtown who simply unmasked the problem or the issue. So that's a challenge and a conversation that we have really across the country. The ways that we interact primarily with our homeless neighbors is through our ambassadors. We have 2 ambassadors who are in service 7 days a week, and they are out removing litter, picking up trash, cleaning and sanitizing benches and shared spaces. They report issues, whether it's a light that might be out or an incident that requires reporting to the police department. And they also act as a friendly face to the downtown, interacting with guests and visitors, giving directions and recommendations. And they have daily contact with unhoused residents downtown, and they have really relationships. We have 2 ambassadors who are relatively new to their roles, but they have, in the short time they've been with us, done a great job of connecting to the people who you see every day as well. Here's just some fun facts and figures about their impact in the downtown. And we'd like to say thank you to the City of San Luis Obispo for providing additional support for our Clean and Safe program over the last 18 months to enable us to continue providing the ambassadors. You can see here in the lower right-hand screen is Yadvir, and then over here is Tyler, who's hard to see because he's covered with a mask and a hat, but you will know him as well. New for 2020, we launched a partnership with Capslo, and this took a little bit of a slow start because of COVID, but we're delighted to announce that we now have a dedicated homeless outreach person in downtown. That is our caseworker, Junior Menchaca, and he will be one of your speakers this morning. We'll hear more from him about his person-centered approach and the work that he does to guide people through very complicated systems and really get to know the people over time, because we know that time and trust, time is really what's required to develop trust. Since we launched this program in December, you can see some stats here. Junior and some of his colleagues at Capslo have done 348 individual contacts in the downtown. They've had interactions with many of you, and they've been in service for 144 hours just out on the sidewalk. They've had 9 clients go to 40 Prado, which may seem like a low number, but over the course of the presentation, you'll actually hear that that's a pretty big success that we should be celebrating indeed. So we thank Junior, and we look forward to hearing from him later today. And with that, we'd like to invite our first speaker for the day, Derek Johnson, who's the city manager of the City of SLO. Thank you so much for being with us this morning. Derek, we're gonna let you share your screen now and take it away.
Great. Thank you, Bettina, and good morning, everyone. Appreciate the opportunity to present this morning. I have been in public service for about 30 years, and I would say the bulk of my career, I've had experience in interfacing with homeless issues. Before coming to San Luis Obispo, I was down in Santa Barbara. Many of you know the situation and challenges down in Santa Barbara are even, I think, greater than what we can face here in San Luis Obispo. And so what I bring today and bring to San Luis Obispo is a lot of perspective, I think, of some of the lessons learned down in Santa Barbara. Not only have I worked in a professional capacity in kind of local government, but down there I had my own business at a time doing nonprofit consulting and doing fund development and strategic planning for nonprofits. And one of our clients was to help raise and build the Homeless Services Center down there. Some of my colleagues like to talk about, if you want to see what's happening in Santa Barbara, 5-10 years from now, look down in Santa Monica. If you want to look down, if you want to see what's going to happen in San Luis Obispo, look down in Santa Barbara 5-10 years, you'll see what's going to be happening here. And so I think that some of that is true, and I think we also have an opportunity. I think that where we are today is we have an opportunity to really make a difference on homelessness if we really work together and focus together. And this is not a city issue. This is not a county issue. This is a community issue. It is going to take the entire community and village to really make an impact on this huge, huge challenge. So with that, I'm going to kind of walk you through our major city goal and the partnerships. And I'm happy to say we went to the city council last night and got approval, conceptual approval for some major steps on our major city goals. And I'll talk specifically about the housing and homelessness partnership. So what is our major city goal for the 21-23? And these words make a difference for us because they really set forth the basis for how we're going to approach over the next 2 years tackling the challenges of homelessness. And so you can see that this goal is coupled with homelessness is coupled with housing. And so we're looking to expand housing options for all and to continue to facilitate the production of housing. We have more housing under construction and under permit right now in Michael Codron's shop. And I should have mentioned, we have some great city staff who are on the call today. Michael Codron, our community development director, Tish McLeish, who also works in community development. And then we have Kelsey Knockett, who's our first homeless response manager, who just started this last week, the first time we've ever had a position dedicated to homelessness in the history of the city. And then we have Greg Herman, our deputy city manager. So as I continue on with the kind of what the goal is, it's a bridge of both housing and affordable and workforce housing. And so we work with a lot of different partners, whether it's Haslo, People's Self-Help Housing, et cetera, to work on producing housing. Cities don't build housing. We provide the stage, we provide the platform, and in some cases, we're the bridge for funding, whether it's federal dollars or local dollars. We also and mentioned this, the second part of this is to collaborate with our nonprofit partners and the county. And you'll hear me say this several times today. The County of San Luis Obispo is a subdivision of the state of California. They receive all of the funding for social services. I can't overemphasize that. All of the funding. The cities don't get that funding. All of the funding comes to the county. So people turn to the city all the time. What are you doing about mental health? What are you doing about drug and alcohol services? And so part of today is a little bit of a civics lesson to say that those core services are provided by counties. Counties may contract with other folks, but that's how the funding is provided. We also look to the state and federal government, and all of this is kind of what we hope to come together to implement comprehensive and effective strategies to reduce chronic homelessness. And that term chronic is very important. I think many of you are familiar with the 10-year plan to quote, end homelessness. I don't think that we're going to see that happen. We're really talking about trying to address the chronic homeless population. So addressing homelessness in the city, it is certainly an ongoing challenge in California and throughout the Central Coast and in our city, as Bettina mentioned. We really rely on a whole group of nonprofit partners, whether it's Capslo, TEMA, to provide a variety of services. Here again, the County of San Luis Obispo, they provide really those kind of, I would say, root cause services and the things that are going to change people's lives, like case management, the mental health services, a lot of education. They provide emergency assistance. For example, all the funding that's come in for utility relief, rental assistance, that flows to the counties. Transitional and permanent housing, that's an area where the city steps in, and we often partner with the County of San Luis Obispo. Bishop Street Studios is an example where we partner with them both on land and financing to make that project happen. We also work on kind of transportation. We provide and we work with the county on bus tokens, for example, for our homeless community. And last but not least, the county provides a fair amount of funding for medical and social services, including drug and alcohol counseling. And Capslo is working right now to create our first detox facility in our county. In terms of some of the things that you may have read about lately, we have moved forward with some code changes. And so this is part of the dynamic that we have, is that cities oftentimes see a lot of the impacts and get a lot of the calls for services related to homelessness. And given that we don't get the funding, we don't have the authority to provide a lot of social services. Where we get, where our space is sometimes is really around laws and ordinances, et cetera, and or funding. So, you know, recently you probably read about some of the actions that we took relative to clarifying laws around tents and use of tents, which I think, you know, people sleeping in tents was a product of the pandemic and people really not feeling comfortable living in a congregate living setting. And so people were posting up tents in various parks. That is not unique to just San Luis Obispo. You're seeing it all throughout the state of California. One of our principles is that public spaces should be for all, so that, you know, kids, families, people can go and enjoy the park. We're not focused on necessarily status. When we go out there and do enforcement or we develop laws, we're really focused on behaviors. The city contributions, and I'll talk about this in a minute, we make significant contributions to programs to address homelessness on the impacts of public spaces. And I'll talk about some of those numbers. And then recently and in the past, we've made a variety of municipal code changes to help maintain the quality of life in parks for all residents, businesses, and for visitors in the city. So this is some of the cycle and some of the issues that we've experienced here is that we've seen a rise in activities in public spaces that are impacting the community, and they require that new legislation. There is, and as I mentioned before, we get a lot of phone calls, and there's a legal distinction between status. You know, we'll get a phone call to the police department, hey, there's a homeless person out here, would you please come by? And absent, and you'll hear from Sergeant Dickel and Officer Kosnick about the fact that just because an individual is homeless doesn't mean that there is necessarily a law enforcement response. It's really those illegal behaviors or that are adverse that we can take action. And then we've got the kind of the practical public and environmental health and safety issues, whether that's a big encampment, people sleeping in a space, sleeping down in a creek. Just by way of awareness, last year, I think we picked up out of the creeks about 70 tons of items that were removed from the creeks and from different spaces related to homelessness. And that's an area that certainly we could use support from Downtown SLO and from the business group about some options. And I think you'll hear from Sergeant Dickel about some ways that you can secure your business and help us keep a lot of these items from ending up in the creeks. I can't overemphasize this, that homelessness, the county does receive that direct and federal funding to administer services, emergency assistance, and transitional and permanent housing. The city does not receive those funds. The county is, and I really just want to acknowledge, you know, hear from both Laurel and Carolyn today, they are taking a strong leadership role. I think a lot of us have been consumed by the pandemic over the last, I would say 405 days or so since we declared the emergency, but who's counting? And so we haven't had the ability to really focus on homelessness, which has been that is accelerated as a result of the pandemic. And so we had a great meeting this last week with both Laurel and Carolyn and all the city managers, and we're regrouping, and there is a regional focus on what we can do collectively together to address this challenge. So the city's existing general fund resources, I just want to give you a snapshot. We spend about $750,000 in the police department with our CAT team, and you're going to hear from Officer Kosnick. We have downtown bike officers. They are the quickest way for you as merchants and business owners and property owners. These two teams are really they have a really good sense of what's going on in the downtown. We approach this from a community policing approach, and you'll hear from Sergeant Dickel about that approach. We've got about 30,000 calls a year for police services. About 25% of those are involved homeless individuals. That is a significant increase over the last year. It's essentially been a hockey stick, increase in calls in terms if you were to map the trends over time. About 4,100 calls in the downtown, and about 34% of the calls in downtown are related to homeless individuals. In terms of the community impacts in 2020 as a result of our direct support for homelessness, and this is primarily related to 40 Prado, and I think everyone should understand that when we talk about 40 Prado, that is, we really punched above our weight when we built that facility. People from the other 58 counties in California look at that as, wow, that's pretty amazing that you were able to pull that off as a county-city public-private partnership. You may or may not know that we literally have other counties who call and ask if they can bring their clients to San Luis Obispo because they know how service-rich it is. It's helped over 2,000 people, over 150 children that have helped. 34% of the funding comes from this, or the individuals come from the city of SLO. Nearly 300 people housed through some of the programs in partnership with the county, and nearly 50 children that have been housed. Beyond that, in terms of homelessness, what are we doing in terms of that funding side? We have a Human Relations Commission. One of their focus has been homelessness. On an annual basis, they distribute about $150,000 in funding, and they've done for the last 2 years. Homeless services at Capslo at 40 Prado. We've provided about $157,000 annually. And as part of our next budget, we're proposing to fund them so they can expand the number of beds by 25%. And so the city is making that contribution. This was actually something that Wade Horton, our county administrator, and the county was prepared to do, but pulled back that funding right as the pandemic hit, and we all started to realize the huge financial impacts from COVID-19. Beyond that, we're a huge partner with Downtown SLO, the Ambassador Program, $60,000 for our Clean and Safe pilot program extension, nearly $30,000 for ambassadors, $20,000 for our dedicated caseworker, and then $10,000 for a social enterprise initiative. And I know many of these programs sound familiar. Some of this was the work that was being contemplated with the PBID, and we're seeing that this need is not going to go away anytime soon. In terms of homelessness, a priority and the issue of concern and a major city goal, as Bettina talked about, it shows up time and time again in our surveys as one of the #1 concerns of the community. It got established as a major city goal back in January of 2021. And then last night, the council considered and decided to add additional resources. So what are the existing and proposed resources that will be available to address this at a city level? We've got the CAT team with 2 officers. We're proposing to add a second social worker from TEMA to help provide support. Right now, our current TEMA social worker that's funded by the County of San Luis Obispo, their caseload is they have about 800 clients. That's about 20 times the caseload that a social worker should have. So they're overwhelmed. And so we're adding 1 additional social worker paid for by the city. This is the first time we've done this. We don't normally fund social workers. That's historically a county responsibility. Safe parking program. We have expanded the existing program at 40 Prado. We have a pilot program at Railroad Square for the duration of the COVID-19 pandemic. This was a program that I actually developed when I was over in community development. We put together the ordinance that allows it to happen. It's a program that actually I worked on down in Santa Barbara County. It can be an effective way for people who are living in vehicles to have a safe place and address a lot of the neighborhood concerns. As I talked about earlier, we have our new homeless response manager, Kelsey Knockett. She's with us today, and hopefully you'll have a chance to see her on the screen. We've provided funding for contract staff and resources, communications, data collection, research models, and then over the next a couple of years, we'll be working on the update of the county's 10-year plan, and then aligning the city, developing a strategic plan for homelessness for the city. So we know what our role, what our responsibility is, and there's clarity about that moving forward with the community. Lastly, something I'm really excited about is our mobile crisis unit. You may have read about this in the paper in Eugene, Oregon. It's called the Cahoots program. There's been a similar program in Denver. It is essentially a way for non-sworn to provide and respond to certain calls. So it'll be managed by the fire department. It'll pair a social worker with a city EMT so that we can provide both response when people call in to dispatch, but also at the same time, we can provide kind of some proactive outreach to people in the community. And so a way we can tend to people's both their medical and their social needs and really try to encourage them to get to 40 Prado. I want to say that, that is, I think, one of the areas that we could use all of your support. We have developed a model, whether it's a funnel or et cetera, but really the Homeless Services Center was really a culmination of trying to consolidate, food, medical, social services, mental health care, shelter, place to store your belongings, to take care of your pet all in one facility instead of having it be spread out throughout the city of San Luis Obispo. And so, that is something that, we've confronted lately is, people who say that perhaps 40 Prado isn't the right place for them. That is the way we've designed services in our county, is that we could not fund 20 different spots for all these different services. We needed to consolidate it in a very efficient way over at 40 Prado. Kelsey, who you see on the screen this morning, she is our full-time contract homeless response manager, and she'll be participating in regional efforts and be working a lot with both Carolyn and Laurel on addressing and developing strategy and measurable outcomes for homelessness. Our short-term objectives are this homeless strategic plan for the city and build upon those existing partnerships. And with that concludes my portion of the presentation, kind of the money and the big picture side. And then we've got some city staff here as well. And I'm going to turn it over to Officer Kosnick, who's going to talk a little bit about the CAT team and what they do specifically and some of the outcomes that they've achieved.
All right, good morning. I know John and I have come and talked to the group previously, but the CAT team, as mentioned, is an officer paired with a mental health professional brought on by TEMA. Unfortunately, John's out today with COVID. So he wasn't able to be here, but he's recovering and hopefully going to get out there soon. Some of the things I think a lot of you know about the community action team is we get out there and try to provide services to people that haven't had services provided to them. On the next slide shows what we've been able to accomplish over the last 2.5 years, which is a lot more than I thought we would be able to do. I didn't anticipate having the kind of success that we've had, but a lot of that's attributed to John and his dedication to working with people and seeing them get services. So you can see the number of clients that we've contacted over the last 2.5 years. large number of people that have been treated for mental health, substance abuse, people that have been housed. One of the things I feel like our greatest successes have been family reunifications, and a lot of success with people that are new to town, that we can get them back to family members who are willing to take them in and provide them with assistance. Also do a lot of family interventions. These are people that are housed, but maybe they have an adult family member who has mental health problems and things aren't going well in their house. And we come in and try to bring resources to them so the person stays housed and doesn't get kicked out and become a member of our homeless community. We also provide a lot of services as far as food and bikes, and that goes back to trying to gain trust that was talked about earlier, so we can bring people services and get them into places such as Prado, or get them mental health services or drug and alcohol services. Lastly, the next slide, John and I's contact information. So if you're having ongoing issues with people that need services, we're happy to come out and talk to them, try to get them into services. If you're not feeling safe contacting them, then obviously contact the police department. We get a lot of referrals from patrol officers, the downtown bike officers, saying, hey, we think there's somebody that can use your services, use your help, and I think they'd be receptive to services. And that's a great way for us to come out and actually be able to find somebody that's willing to take the services and get them into the right place and where they need to be.
Tim, excuse the interruption. Can you explain what DTS and DTO stand for, please?
So that's for mental health, danger to self and danger to others. So if you feel like somebody might meet the criteria for a 5150 hold, a mental health hold. So essentially a suicidal person, or you contact somebody and feel like somebody's safety is at jeopardy, then that's a call to 911. If it's doesn't meet those criteria, then more often it's a call to the non-emergency dispatch number, which is the other number there on the screen. And that's for the immediate response where patrol will come out. If it's a issue that it doesn't need to be addressed immediately, but it's an ongoing problem, then that's what John and I's phone numbers are on there for.
I think Bettina thinks, Officer Kosnick, is that a lot of time people ask, well, why is the social worker paired up with police? Why are they out on their own? And I think that Officer Kosnick, raises a really good point. Often one of the reasons we're called out for service is because it's not because of status, it's because there's danger to self, danger to others, or there's potentially some sort of crime that's in progress. And Officer Kosnick and the whole CAT team can help de-escalate the situation, hopefully bring it into a situation where it's safe for themselves, safe for people who are others, and then we can render service. And so that's the fundamental reason why we pair up the social workers with the CAT team. And I know that gets confusing. I know that's a point of conversation. But until there's a safe situation out there and things are stabilized, that's the only time we can really provide a lot of the services. And that doesn't mean that there isn't an opportunity for social workers to do proactive outreach in times when there's not an unsafe situation. We'd love to see that. Unfortunately, that's not the level of services that's being provided. And so that's the response structure that we have today. Sergeant Dickel, do you want to jump in?
Yep, I'm jumping in right now. I just had to get myself unmuted. As the slide just said, my name is Jason Dickel. Just wanted to share with you guys, it's good to be back and see you guys again. If I've met you before, hello. If I haven't, my name is Jason. And this is my 26th year in law enforcement. This is my 18th year working for the city. And so I'm very familiar with our downtown. And I think one of the things that really helps as I get out there and meet our downtown SLO folks is having a little knowledge about the police department. So I wanted to share a little bit with you, if you don't mind. So some of our staffing stuff, if you see on our screen, we have 61 sworn officers. That means 61 police officers. And our job is to cover the city of San Luis Obispo, the entire city, for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And then of those 61 officers, 14 people are staff, which includes sergeants, lieutenants, captains, and the chief. We have 6 that work in our detective bureau, which leaves 41 officers on uniform patrol. So 41 officers handling the daily calls for service out there. Next slide. And then, so downtown specifically, and that's why we're, in this meeting right now, is talk about what's going on in downtown. And so for just the downtown, we have 2 downtown Metro bicycle officers. Our Metro team is comprised of 5 people altogether, 4 bicycle officers and myself. And so during the daytime, Monday through Saturday, 7 a.m. to 5 p.m., there's 2 bicycle officers out. Then we have 2 nighttime bicycle officers. They work Wednesday through Saturday, 5 p.m. to 3 a.m. And you'll see them mostly out there handling the bar scene and the college crowd that's out there at night. We have 2 officers that are dedicated through our community action team who focus 100% of their time on working with chronic homelessness. You just met one of them, Officer Kosnick, and they do a great job. And they do a lot for our downtown. As Tim mentioned, regularly my team will refer people because that's one of the challenges they face is the CAT team does as they go out, and many people don't necessarily want their service or want the services that are available to them. But my team will often pre-screen, see who might be interested in getting some services and how they might be able to help them. And that partnership has really worked out well for our downtown. Then there's me. I'm a sergeant with the police department, and I'm dedicated 100% to downtown. One of my jobs is supervising the staff downtown, the bicycle team, and then also our swing shift team. But my main job is as a liaison between the police department and you. And so I'm here for you to reach out to. I try to attend these meetings for Downtown SLO, Chamber of Commerce, restaurant and bar associations, as farmers market finally coming back. I'll be out there for farmers market. And I'm a liaison with ABC as well, which many of your businesses are involved with. And so this is my job, is to make sure that this is all going smoothly and to hear the needs that you guys are facing and how to best address those things. We also have what we refer to as an FST, or a field service tech. This is a non-sworn civilian position. Angie Sandoval is doing a great job of getting out there during the daytime. Her hours are 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. And she's dedicated to the downtown, to whatever meeting the needs. She could take some calls for service as long as there's no suspect contact kind of call, and handling quality of life issues that get reported to the police department on a daily basis. And so her job is dedicated to downtown. So there's 4 officers, 1 sergeant, and 1 FST dedicated just to the downtown. In addition to that, you would think that might be enough, but regularly it's not. In between the hours when we're not fully staffed down in downtown, and also to accommodate people getting hurt and sick and vacations, we need more help. And so we draw on more resources from the police department. So we'll have patrol staff that covers our downtown whenever the bicycle team's not there. And so on your typical patrol staff, you'll have 6 officers and a sergeant. Then we'll additionally put people out on foot in downtown, especially through like this last holiday season. Every day we have 2 officers on foot in downtown. You might have seen me out there as well, helping to fill those spots to make sure we have feet on the ground, our boots on the ground rather. Special events, you'll see us out there for special events. Usually there's an officer or 2 or more dedicated just to those. And then also, as we have crime trends, as we're experiencing new issues, whether or not you always see these officers, they're out there. Quite often we might put people in unmarked vehicles to address some of the specific crime trends that are going on in downtown. Next slide, please. So just for you visual folks, here's a SLO PD organizational chart. As you can see, the chief's leading the show, moving down to our captains and how that breaks down. There's an administrative captain covering down through our detective bureau. And then we fall under operations for our downtown. And you can see I fall under our day watch and night watch lieutenant. And then I have a swing shift. And they work 4 to 2. There's 3 officers on a swing shift. And then there's our daytime and nighttime bikes, and then also our FST. Next slide. This one will break it down a little more specific to what's important here and how this works for us. So I actually work for 2 lieutenants because I work daytime and nighttime. And so as you field information to a lieutenant, it is coming to me. And so if you don't get me specifically, it'll trickle down to me. And then through me down to my bicycle team. I'm in contact with our daytime guys and our nighttime guys on a daily basis. We also use patrol quite often, as I mentioned. Tim and John Clevens have been great and on the CAT team, offering some services that we necessarily can't. And then and our backup is always patrol. So this is what your downtown specific organizational chart will look like. Next slide would be great. All right, so what we often get is, how can we help? What can we do to keep downtown safe? And this is what I'm going to ask of you guys, because it is a partnership and we can't be everywhere all the time. And this is how I think you can help. You can partner with us, partner with SLO PD. You can be a good neighbor to the other residents and business owners in downtown, and be creative and be smart. I'm going to grab to the next slide, Derek. So partnering with SLO PD, what I mean by this is communicate with us. I know it can be frustrating at times calling the police department and which service do you call? Do you call the emergency, the 911, or are you calling the non-emergency? Are you calling Jason Dickel directly? What do you do? If there's an emergency, always call 911. An emergency can mean a lot of different things, but if you feel there's any type of danger or a sense of immediacy to what's going on, call 911. That's what we're there for. If it's not an emergency like that, call this next number, which is the 781-7312. It literally rings through to the same place. It's just in a different format. And so I think it's important to know, some people think it goes to a different place. It's the same person that you're probably going to talk to if you call 911. Just 911 offers different priorities for phone service kind of stuff. So you're getting the same kind of response, and the officers will know just as quickly. So reach out to us with your questions, your concerns. The downtown officers make themselves very available. They're on bicycles often even on foot. If you have their contact number, everyone's issued a department cell phone to keep in contact with you guys. Send us emails. We're available on the website for our email address. If you don't want to email me, but you want to email one of the downtown officers specifically, they're out there, send them an email. And maybe even flag us down if you need us or have a question. We're available to you. And I think if you get to know the officers that are working in your area, I think you'll start to appreciate what they're doing for you out there, and they're working hard for you. So I think it also helps having that open line of communication. So if you flag us down just to say hi, that's a great way to meet them. And the other part where you can partner with us, be a crime fighter with us. We're trying to keep your downtown safe, and we need you to try to keep your downtown safe. And so often we could be frustrated as we put together an investigation when we're getting the information 3 days later. Often there's very little we could do with it at that point, but we'll still try to follow up on it. But if crimes are happening, call us. Report it as soon as you can. Assist us if we come in and ask for video. If you can, have your employees be ready to be able to provide that, to have access to it. Video is very helpful these days in modern law enforcement and helping you identify people quickly, especially before maybe somebody else, one of your other neighbors, becomes a crime victim. So give statements, provide your information, be helpful. At times, it's actually very tough for some of these officers as they go hands-on with something in downtown. They might be with just themselves and or even working by themselves or just the two of them. And so if you're able to help them in some way, well, then help them. And we appreciate that. And then follow through. Follow through is really important. It could be very difficult. We'll have some of our retail stores in downtown will often call about a theft that just occurred. They'll give a description, and the person's running this direction and they stole X merchandise. The officers will go out and try to find that person, contact them. There's a lot of inherent risk with making a contact or an arrest like this. And at times, sometimes we'll come back to the store and the store doesn't want any prosecution, or the persons there don't want any prosecution. Well, it creates a lot of liability for the city and those officers individually, as they might have had to, make some action or take some force to apprehend that person. And so if you're able to, follow through with prosecution. And if you just want to report something and you don't want contact or an arrest made, well, then let us know when you call, and that'll be really helpful in how we make our decisions in deploying resources. All right, next slide. So I'm asking you guys to be a good neighbor. I do believe community policing begins there with you guys, with the community. So take care of each other. We all have a shared interest in our downtown. Support your neighbor businesses and the residents that live in downtown. Try to be cooperative with each other, and especially if you see some kind of crime and it's not necessarily affecting you, but it's affecting your downtown, so call us. Support the businesses around the area. Report suspicious activity. Do your part to reduce crime, and by doing that and by having a good neighborhood watch, it helps reduce that fear of crime, people's overall sense of how it feels in downtown. And I think you should stand together and share your ideas. I've talked to many business owners in downtown. Some of you guys are probably online right now. And I've got some great ideas about from you on how to prevent crime in downtown, some really creative ways to do that. So be a good neighbor. And next slide, please. Which brings me to being creative and be smart. Be creative in how you approach this crime prevention and how you do your daily business. Don't make things so readily accessible to be stolen if you have some type of retail shop, or make sure you're locking your doors. If you're, even when coming down to your hours of service, if it's something that's going to be problematic, depending on your location and the lighting, there's certain things you could do. So you can reach out to us. There's this thing called crime prevention through environmental design. It's also known as CEPTED. We have a couple officers certified in CEPTED. But it's about how we can set up, your business to not be a victim. And then one of the great examples I put in here was the globe. If you guys have been through the Downtown Creek Walk and you've come across the globe used to be a source in the years that I worked downtown as a downtown bicycle officer. Every day, that's where you would find a lot of our transient homeless community that would be out committing some crimes like smoking and drinking drugs. And it was always in this area because it lent itself to a lot of privacy back there. Through Officer Engelhardt, if you've ever met him, did a great job with bringing together different city resources, offering some new lighting, cutting back the types of vegetation that was there, and making the area more inviting for everybody, as opposed to this secluded little area where people get away with, these different types of crimes. And I would say 9 out of 10 times now when I go there, I'll rarely find anybody out there drinking or doing anything that they're not supposed to be doing. So that's a great example. Those surveillance cameras are great. They're a great resource for us to follow up on stuff. But the best surveillance cameras are the ones that are obvious, and because they deter crime. And lighting is excellent. If you have motion lighting, or just lighting throughout a store, it makes it more difficult and less inviting for people. Lock your doors. I always find it interesting how often we'll go to, whether it be a vehicle burglary or a business burglary, and the doors are just unlocked. Many of our crimes are theft-related crimes or crimes of opportunity. And so think of that as you go to work and leave from work. And the next thing you could do is a trespassing letter. What a trespassing letter is, and I'll drop one in the chat if I'm able to here at the end, is it allows the police department to tell people to leave your property. And that could be whatever part is private on your property. The truth of the matter is I don't have the authority to tell people to leave your private property unless you want people to leave that private property. So often when your business is closed, people will congregate or find a place to stay for the night on your property. And it makes it really difficult if we don't have one of these letters. So it's a pretty simple process to complete. I think we're running a year at a time that the letter is good for. And what you're doing is you're empowering the police department to tell somebody to leave your property. and it gives us some tools and authority. So we'll partner with SLO PD, be a good neighbor, and be creative and be smart in how you conduct the safety of your business, especially with your business employees, and educating your employees. There's also a flyer that I wanted to throw out there real quick, and I'll put it in the chat also. Just going over some of the laws that can really help out in downtown, like there's a bench ordinance, legal lodging. You can't smoke in public anywhere in San Luis Obispo. You can't block sidewalks unless you have a permit. You can't solicit aggressively within 25 feet of an ATM. There's a lot of specific things the city's got for you. And open alcohol containers are prohibited. And so I'll drop that into the chat. It's something that a tool you can use to call the police department when there's these violations are occurring. And then, so most recently, I get a lot of questions about, well, why aren't the police doing anything? And that's actually not exactly the case. It's just we're very, very limited on what we could do right now. So some of our complications due to COVID include the county jail. So that's the place where we take somebody when we arrest them. They're not accepting any misdemeanor arrests, save for a few different misdemeanor arrests, including domestic violence and DUIs. So many of the arrests that we might have, especially that are quality of life related to downtown, there's nothing I can do with them. The best we could do is issue them a citation and let them walk away. There's literally just no place that we could take them to. And so often if you call the police and they show up and a few minutes later you see the person walking away, they probably got issued a citation, and that's probably all we can do. So our trespassing, our vandalisms, the thefts from your stores, it's very frustrating for us as well to try to do something with it, but a lot of times we just can't even book them in jail. And then when we do write in that citation and it goes to court and eventually they have a warrant, which is a judge's order saying, I want to see this person in court, I still can't take them to jail. The jail's just not accepting them. This isn't something that the police department or the city controls. This is specifically the sheriff controls. And so there's nothing we could do about that till they change their policies back. And so one of our greatest challenges right now is our customer base that we deal with all the time. We spend 90% of our time with 10% of the folks, right? And so they're getting to know this, and it's made them more brazen, and it's why you probably see a lot more in-your-face kind of violation of law in our downtown, as they know what we can do and what we can't do. And so that's making it pretty difficult for us to give good service. So we're hoping for that to come back around. Again, it's not something the police department has any say in, and we've voiced our concerns with the sheriff and the board of supervisors, and that's something that you could also do, is you could reach out to your board of supervisors and let them know how this is affecting you. So that's going to end my presentation, and what I wanted to leave you guys with, this is our 602 letter, also known as a trespassing letter. 602 is just a violation code, so if you hear it referred to as that, this is the thing I would like for you guys to fill out for us if you want us to be able to tell people to leave your property when you're not there. And so it empowers the police department to help you out when you're not there, because the police department's always out there working. We just get limited on what we can do. And so thank you so much for your time. I really do appreciate it. And it's great to see you all again. And I look forward to any questions at the end of the presentation if you have them. And if not, I'm always available to you through email or through calling the police department. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. Thank you, Sergeant Dickel. Thank you to Derek. Thank you to Officer Kosnick. We appreciate your perspective, and I know that what you do is very complicated, so especially clarification around all of those acronyms and the different protocol. It's really helpful to hear your perspective. We're going to hear from the county next, and I just wanted to remind everybody that we will have time for Q&A. So after Carolyn and Laurel present, we'll have a chance to have a conversation. So Laurel, if you want to start sharing, welcome, and thank you for being with us this morning.
Thank you. And while Laurel pulls up our screen, I'll just give a quick introduction. So I'm Carolyn Berg. I'm with our County Administrative Office, overseeing some newer regional initiatives. And then with me is Laurel Weir with our County Social Service Department. And she's our Homeless Services Coordinator, or as I commonly know her, my resident homelessness expert. Just a wealth of knowledge and a deep background working in different parts of the country. We're here to talk to you about what I think are some exciting regional efforts focused on building stronger collaborative relationships, as Derek mentioned earlier. And we're really focused on, what are the most impactful actions our region and the many partners working in it can focus on to prevent and address homelessness. And I really liked what Sergeant Dickel mentioned about being a good neighbor. I think that really comes to mind as I consider the regional initiatives. Not only being a good neighbor to our unhoused residents and, people that are maybe just in a really challenging point in life, but also being good neighbors between all the agencies involved here with the cities and the county, Downtown Association, TEMA, CAPSO, and others. So that's really what a lot of this year is focused on, is how to do better together. So I'm hoping that today we'll give you a better understanding of where we're headed this year in a very quick snapshot, because I know Junior is going to talk after us, and we want to get to your questions. And so at the end of it, I'll also give you a couple of concepts on how your downtown association might be able to engage here beyond just having Bettina on the HSOC that helps with homeless service coordination. Next slide, Laurel. So back in December 2020, our County Board of Supervisors reaffirmed homelessness with a focus on detox and rehab services, as well as housing, as one of its top priorities for the coming budget. And what that means is that our county board is expecting staff and departments to come forward with resources, staffing, funding, and program needs to help with preventing and addressing homelessness in our region. And as you heard from the City of SLO, the cities and many of our partner organizations are also lifting these up as priorities. And I doubt that that's a surprise to anyone on this call. As leaders and business owners and residents in this community, I'm sure you've felt the very tangible shift in focus around all of us recognizing the need to change how we support our homeless community and how we work on, bringing back community spaces. And so that's a big focus of what we're doing. Before we get into where we're headed this year, Laurel's going to go ahead and just give you a quick snapshot of our population of unhoused individuals and what that looks like for our region. Go ahead, Laurel.
So we wanted to, as Carolyn said, give you a kind of quick snapshot. First up is looking at how homelessness has increased or decreased over the past several years. Every 2 years, the county does a point in time count, which is a count that's done in a 12-hour period of unsheltered and sheltered homeless people around the county. We go around to all the census tracts and use teams of enumerators that includes somebody with lived experience of homelessness who knows the area. So someone who has been homeless or might currently be homeless, who helps us find people who are hard to find. And this is a way of comparing apples to apples. This is not going to give you the number of people who are homeless throughout the year or even throughout a given week. It's just intended to be a photo, kind of like if you were interested in how many people come into a Walmart on a Monday afternoon at 3 p.m. and you take a photo from the ceiling of everybody that's on the floor right at that time. That's kind of what this is. So it won't capture people who might be in the jail overnight or in certain other situations overnight. So it's just a very quick snapshot. But as you can see, the numbers have declined somewhat since 2013. And the number in 2017 is a little bit of an undercount because it was a very, very rainy year that year on that particular day. And so sometimes it's a little bit harder. But generally, our numbers trended downward from 2013, but it's stayed a little more static overall. When we do the count, we also have some of the guides doing in the follow-up days surveying of a sampling of clients to gather information about them, including duration of current episode of homelessness, but we also ask them about where they lived excuse me, prior to becoming homeless. And the vast majority of the people interviewed are from our county. I will say, and this is a really important point, that the numbers that you see in the downtown area perhaps could be different from this. And that's something that I think as we're moving forward, we'll really need to look at to see whether or not they're distinct populations. In talking with John Clevens, he tells me that it's a higher percentage of the folks with whom he speaks in the downtown area. Some of this has to do with what they would call a sampling bias, in that if you're only surveying people in a very distinct region, it's possible that those people may not be alike and representative of the larger group. And so I think that's something that maybe bears more looking at. I should also note that the state just released a new database over the weekend that has information on from all of the what they call continuums of care, which are the kind of service regions working on homelessness, around the country. And they had all the continuums of care upload data to the state database, and and this is 4 years worth of data, and they're now able to look at how many people were served in more than one continuum of care in any given time period. And so this database includes specific information for each client: name, date of birth, ID, other information that they can use to deduplicate this. And what they found was that for our county, in a given year, approximately 12.5% of the clients who are accessing our HMIS participating programs, which includes 40 Prado and some of the street outreach programs, 12.5% of those people had been served in another COC in a given year. So, and when you look at it over a longer period of time, so over, say from January 2017 through December 2019, I excluded 2020 because COVID is a little bit of an anomaly, but our overlap is about 23%. So it lines up, and that's data that's been verified, and the shelters usually use actual state issued ID. So that's a great new piece of information that was not available to us before. But again, it'll be really important, I think, going forward to look at is the population of people downtown who are visible. And I should note that not everybody who's homeless is visible. A couple of years ago, the HSOC, the Homeless Services Oversight Council, did a survey of homeless youth. And I remember reading one of the surveys, and the youth was talking about how much he loved his job in San Luis Obispo and how much it made a difference in his life. And it's likely that he and some of the other folks who are homeless and working may not be so visible to everyone. But if the population in the downtown area is different, then it would also suggest that we might need a slightly different solution. So I do think that will be one thing that we really want to look at going forward, and trying to share information and really understand who is downtown. I wanted to also briefly mention, show some of the changes in the subpopulation. We have, over the past several years, created a number of housing programs and services programs for people, particularly veterans and families. And so, as well as some new programs for people who are chronically homeless. And they are having an impact on those populations. We are seeing some declines in some of these particular subpopulations. So I just wanted to show this, that interventions can have an impact on overall homelessness. Carolyn?
Good, I am unmuted. So we're going to zoom through these. I know we've got Junior up next. There's a lot we could talk about here, and I guess I will highlight that on May 4th, you can access our county board staff report that can dig into a lot more detail. What I'll say here is, while this might look organized and clean and uncomplicated, as Bettina started this whole presentation off with, the world around supportive services for our unhoused residents is anything but simple. and it involves a lot of partners. As Derek mentioned, the county provides health and human services as a clear responsibility. So we're doing social services and behavioral health, or rather mental health and substance use treatment, countywide on behalf of the state, including here in the city for any residents. The cities are involved. They don't have the same obligations as the county, of course, but to varying capacities, you know, they play such a pivotal role as well in helping with our homeless population. Not least of which I think is helping to plan for and produce affordable housing in the region and helping to lift up CAT teams. So we provide behavioral health staff with TEMA, and then cities are able to lift up the law enforcement side, and same thing with our sheriffs. And then we have so many service-based organizations like Transitions Mental Health and like CAPSLO, who are helping to build and operate shelters, do the street outreach that Junior will talk about, and conduct a number of other initiatives. As far as funding, there is a funding coming in from federal, state, local government, and private donors, and that's rather complicated as well. I guess the thing that seems to be of most interest to folks is, you know, the county just this current year spent about $10.6 million on direct services to support homeless individuals, including supporting CAT teams throughout the region, and increasing the capacity of what's called 65 Now, which is involved in providing housing to our most chronically homeless individuals in the region. So that's one focal area, and then the county is also providing through state, federal, and county funding about $157 million worth of health and human services. And those support residents region-wide, which can often include our unhoused population, but includes other residents and neighbors of ours in the city here. So I'll stop there and hand it over to Laurel to just give you a couple of quick snapshot programs we run, and then we'll wrap up.
Great. So just briefly, some of the programs that have been implemented over the past 10 years or so includes some new permanent housing programs for people who are chronically homeless, like the 65 Now program, which is a partnership with the Housing Authority of San Luis Obispo on Transitions Mental Health, and uses the Housing First model to take people directly from the street and put them into permanent housing and wrap them with supportive services that help stabilize them there. Have had a lot of success partnering with the CAT team on some of their clients, and also on the shelter side, working with the city on 40 Prado. In addition, on the healthcare arena, have been, and behavioral health, have been working county mental health with CAPSLO to try to increase services, including creation of a dedicated mental health clinician position over that's assigned to 40 Prado. With regard to social services, the county runs the Workforce Development Board, and they have some job training or job programs to help people who've been out of the workforce access jobs. And about a year and a half ago, just before COVID hit, we had signed an MOU with them to try to do training for our shelters on how to use some of their database systems to enroll clients and help them do job searches. So we're looking forward to trying to get back to that partnership as COVID decreases. And then lastly, the street outreach has been really important, in the partnering with different communities on the CAT teams.
Great, thanks, Laurel. Okay, thanks. And I think just given time, we'll wrap up on just two final slides. Our county is focused on creating a more structured regional leadership over the world of homeless support services. So as I mentioned, we're focused on building relationships, which takes, like we did last Friday with all the city managers, sitting down and really talking with partners about what we're doing today and how we can do better moving forward. Laurel and her team will be helping to bring on a consultant and oversee a new strategic plan for our region, also known as the 10-year plan that Derek mentioned earlier. But in essence, that's supposed to help us see how far we've come since 2009 and start planning for a different and better future. Another big area is improving our engagement and communication. There's so much happening in this space, and we want to make sure that our community understands that so that we can all help lift up the best solutions possible with a foundation of understanding. And then finally, we'll be looking to implement pilot programs like a Blue Bag program, which was done here to clean up existing camps in 2019, and working on safe parking programs like Derek highlighted. And then I want to, if you don't mind skipping towards the second to last slide, Laurel. I'll just close out saying, as Bettina mentioned, this is not a simple challenge to solve, and it's going to take all the partners, it's going to take all of our communities to find a path forward together. I think we've done a lot of great work in the region, and I think we have a lot more to do. And I'm really grateful for you all spending time today on this, and hope that you'll engage with us over the coming year. If we can go to the last slide, Laurel. We thought of some ways you might be able to engage. I would say Bettina's already representing you at our Homeless Services Oversight Council, but you're welcome to attend those public meetings. But in the near term, on May 4th, we'll be giving a presentation to the county board, and the materials there might be really informative for you. And we just hope you'll participate in our strategic planning this year. So with that, I'll turn it back over to you. Thanks so much.
Wonderful, thank you. And as I expected, we're going a little bit long today, so we do want to make sure to leave time for questions. But we do want to hear from Junior. So Junior, you are new to our organization. You've been with us for a couple of weeks, months rather, but you've been with CapFlow for a while, and we're hoping maybe you can just share a little bit about what it looks like when you're out in downtown. What does your day look like?
Hi, everybody. My name is Junior Menchaca, and I am part of CapFlow, and I am the 40 Prado case manager. So if you don't mind, I'll just share a little bit about who I am. I come from a background of probably about 15 years of outreach, everything from mental health to homelessness to human trafficking. I've had a lot of involvement with different organizations throughout my year. This is what I do. So I have a little bit of experience, and even from probation. So I have both sides, from the humanity part to it to the law and order part of it. So I have a wide variety of experience in those areas. So what I do downtown is I get to interact with everybody, all the unhoused people down there on a personal level, to get to know their names, who they are, where they come from. And my job is to go down there to talk to these unhoused people and provide resources, contacts, let them know where what's available in the community, and I get to share things with them where they can get help. And mostly I interact and help them get stable enough to actually cognitively to be able to apply for different services. And that's what I get to do. And whether it's just getting to know them, because lots of the people down there do have trust issues. They don't have the ability to interact. Most of you guys down there, downtown, you've seen them. You've seen people walking around there, and they have difficult time just with everyday ADLs and just talking to people. So I get to try to build these relationships with. So that's what I get to do. I've over time I've got to meet and interact with over 350 individuals, and I've actually, the numbers changed a little bit. I have like 12 people that have utilized the services there, so I've gone up a little bit. They're still using our services here, and they're at our shelter currently. I have some individuals that we've gotten through the housing authority. I have 4 there that they're housed now in the last 4 months, so those numbers are going up, and we've been focusing on them, so I'm excited about that. Couple of people we've gotten on SSI that weren't able to do that, so spending time with them and helping them go through the paperwork, taking laptops down there and just helping them take care of that. And if I can get them on SSI or get them back on their disability, it helps them have a steady income where we can help them get housing through the authority. So that's what I try to do when I'm downtown with people. Get them services through the TEMA through the Transition Mental Health Association, or get them involved with the veteran services. And so that's what I mostly do downtown. I try to connect people with the services that the community provides. And most of all, I'm a little biased because I work at 40 Prado, so I try to get them down to our services especially. So yeah, and some of the services, if I don't mind, I will share. I know you guys have had a long day, morning here, and it's a lot, so I'm gonna share some of the things, and I won't take much more time because I know we need to also have Q&A. But our shelter, we do provide overnight services. We have 5 family dorms. We have safe parking, the 2 locations now that we have oversee. We have a recuperative care where people come from the hospitals that we have a medical attention that we can take care of them. Provide breakfast, lunch, and dinners. We have showers. We have hygiene stuff that we have. We have laundry services here. We have phone services. We have computers access so we can help them search for jobs and stuff. We have case managements. We have a primary care service that comes in now, and we have a mental health. We have our Slow Hub services, which is part of the recovery and services and counseling. And like some of the guests have mentioned, we have kennels. We're like a one-stop shop here, and so that's why it's really important to try to bring people into our services here. One thing I'm really excited about is we have our medicated assist detox center coming up that we're building in the back there. We're going to have 9 beds back there, and we're going to be able to help people with substance abuse disorders and help them detox and get them stable enough where we can actually provide them some help as well. And like I said, I'm not trying to take up too much time, but I'd like to do this, like share some good stories that have happened here. I got just a couple quick ones. One of the success stories I would like to share is we had an individual we've been working with about 4 months down there who was one of your homeless guys down there. Unfortunately, I can't give names and a lot of details, but we've been working with him. I've helped him get back on his medical treatments that he needed, and he's currently housed now. We've got him on his disability, got everything going for him, and he's housed now. So I was really excited about that. A young lady that was down there that's been homeless for about 3 months now. We've got her down here. We got her part of our clothing program where we've got her some nice clothes and got her taken care of, and got her some outfits to go look for jobs. And she's currently employed downtown now. So that's kind of excited, from living downtown there to on the streets to actually having a job downtown there with one of our business owners down there. So I'm pretty excited about that. And there's more stories, but I know we're short on time here and we need to get some Q&A as well. So, but I do want Fatima, if you don't mind, Fatima, giving out my information there, putting a slide up or sharing it. She also has cards. And if you guys do have more questions or if something I can help you guys with, definitely contact me, okay? And that leaves us, what, 7 minutes for Q&A or 10? So go ahead.
Junior, thank you. It's so clear that you just have such enthusiasm for the work that you do. And
I love what I do, and I just want to help people out there. So I am excited about it.
Yeah, and I will share with everyone else that we, whenever Junior comes into the office just to stop by, his cell phone is ringing. He is getting in touch with people who are trying to get their IDs fixed. He knows everybody by name. And I mean, I hope you all just felt your mood get lifted just by being near the guy on a computer screen. So we're so glad that you're part of our downtown homelessness response. So thanks for being here. We now have 8 minutes left for Q&A, and I'm sure you guys have a lot of questions. We will use the chat to take some of those questions, and I have some that have come in already. We also have a resource that we'll be sending out after this presentation. So there's a great flyer that has come over from PD, and I'm sorry I can't figure out how to put it in the chat, but we will send it out to all of the participants after this meeting, and we'll also send out the slides from the presentation today, and hopefully you can use the information that you learned and we can go forward. So I'll start off with a couple of the questions that I had come through. One question is regarding when you call into dispatch for service, if it appears that somebody is having a mental health emergency, what's the best way to get hope for them? Can you request that the CAT team come out? How do you get the CAHOOTS person to come in? What does that look like?
I'll take that. I think just communicating exactly what you think they need. Initially, you're going to get police officers that are available. As I mentioned, we're a busy little city, and although there's 50,000 residents in a day, we might service 100,000 people, and there's usually 6 officers to do that. So the initial officer's got to assess what's going on anyways, but communicate that, like, hey, actually, I don't think this person's violent, or I just think they're having a mental health, whatever it might be, and ask for those services. And if nothing else, the initial responding officers will have that, hey, that was the reporting party's intent, was to get some services. And then I would say all the way up to, if the CAT team is available, I'm sure that they would respond, because they're on the same radio frequency as we are as the call gets dispatched. Or if they're available, I'm sure the dispatch center would send them. But we also have some limitations with CAT. There's it's an officer and a social worker, so it's not 2 officers going to go handle a call. And so communicate what it is that you're looking for, but know that the first responding officers will be the ones to go and assess, make sure it's safe, and then bring in whatever resources. Our officers are well versed in the stuff that's available, and then especially now with, let's say, the new Cookies program, that would be something. If they're communicate, I think they still might want to have more questions answered about what kind of dangers there might be, to make sure that it's safe before we bring in somebody that's not armed.
And Bettina, I just want to be clear, our mobile crisis unit won't be up and running, and it's in the next budget, so it won't be up and running probably till the fall timeframe. And we'll be following kind of the dispatch protocols. We're working on those right now, and the dispatchers ultimately work to kind of figure out what are the conditions on the ground and who should get dispatched given the circumstances.
Great, thank you. And then we've got a question in the chat. Is it advisable for us to personally approach someone having a problem to try to help?
I would say no, because there's lots of really good people out there who are troubled and might have some mental health issues, but you never really know. That's the one thing about law enforcement. You see all kinds of people, sometimes in their worst moments. And so I would hate for somebody to get hurt, and then it might not even be the intention of that person, but you go up and you could exacerbate a situation for them. So call us, let us go out and handle it. I would always prefer, unless you're dealing with somebody that you know, like one of your business partners down there, or somebody you know personally, get us involved, because often it turns into something that, say, more violent, or a crime that didn't need to happen, just by people getting involved. On that same note, I always, as calls will come in and people are following them right now, don't follow anybody. And we don't want some minor crime like a theft to turn into a violent assault or something. Get a good description. That's the best way you can help the police department. A good description, clothing, male, female, something unique about them, long hair, short hair, and then give that information to the dispatch center, so it makes it easier for the officers to locate the person. Direction of travel is good too, where they were going, but don't contact them yourself, please.
Thank you. I have another question that came to me anonymously. So it was made clear during the presentation that it is not illegal to be homeless or to be in a public space. So what is an illegal activity and an appropriate activity to call about? And how does a business owner try to navigate when to call the police versus maybe call some other kind of resource?
Sure, that's a good question. So it's not illegal to be homeless, and many of the phone calls we get will just be that somebody's there. But anything that constitutes a crime or negative behavior that's affecting people, it's worth a phone call. Many of the calls that we get every day to the dispatch center, they really aren't law enforcement related or necessarily constitute any type of crime. Doesn't mean that we can't come out and help. But so in the flyer that we'll hopefully get out to you real soon, some of the behaviors that you can address are certainly anything that seems like potentially violent, even if they haven't committed a crime yet, or it seems like there could be a risk factor associated with this person. Maybe they're in crisis, maybe they're intoxicated. If you feel like you need the police department, then call us and we'll assess. And so it's pretty common. We'll get there. Maybe there isn't a crime. But in the city of San Luis Obispo, we have lots of different laws. But if somebody's publicly intoxicated, you need us there. And that could be whether it's drugs or alcohol, and that's what we're there to assess. We don't want anybody getting hurt. Anything that seems assaultive or threatening to anybody in downtown, even if you witness it, third party, you witness somebody being threatening to somebody else, yep, call us. We want to come out and address that and make sure that this isn't going to be a potential bad situation for us. And then any violations of law, like we have in our downtown, the bench ordinance, where you can't sit on the bench for more than an hour and you can't block any sidewalks. And so sometimes people set up street vendor kind of stuff. Those are likely violations of law unless they've gotten a permit. All the way up to, I mean, smoking in public is a crime there. It's something we can, gives us a tool to contact this person and identify. But so anything safety related, absolutely, I want a phone call. Anything that's disrupting downtown or disrupting your business, yeah, call us. And some things we can do something about, and sometimes we can't. But they also, your business is private or your property is private, and you can ask somebody to leave if you want to. And so that's what I would go with. Anything threatening, for certainly call us. And then anything that's affecting your business or affecting the people around. Derek, did you have something else?
Yeah, I was just going to add, we get a lot of people posting on social media. I just saw, and we're not monitoring Instagram, Facebook for police reports or Nextdoor. So posting may be cathartic for you, but it's not going to result in action. There's actually been police departments throughout California have had to remind people, you still got to pick up the phone. And so that's the best way. And I know sometimes it might be minor, but it may be minor with, I'll just use example, Laura, and at her store, but 10 minutes later, it escalates and it's something else. And we hear time and time again, I wish I would have called about that person, because 10 minutes earlier, this happened with me, and then lo and behold, something worse happened. So,
yeah.
Yeah, and I have a little pointer I'd like to add. I put the dispatch non-emergency number in my phone, and I listed it as AAA police dispatch AAA. So it shows up in my contacts list first. So I don't have to think about, oh, did I put it in my phone? Do I have to look for the number? So that's a strategy that you might think about as well, and maybe share with your employees in your shop. We have another question in the chat. Where are the unhoused people permitted to make camp within the city of SLO?
There is no permitted place for people to camp. There again, to our point, my point earlier is we are trying to encourage and move people to 40 Prado. Living on the streets, I believe, or permitting people to live on streets is a form of cruelty, from my perspective. Living in a tent, living in a sleeping bag is not a way for people to live a good life. And so as much as we can, that's why we're encouraging people to move to 40 Prado. And I know there's rules, and just like we have rules anywhere, and some of those folks can't abide by those rules. There is ways, if you are quote unquote kicked out, which is few and far between, for people to panel back in. And that's what our goal is, to get people into services and get them on the path to getting out of chronic homelessness. We can't end chronic homelessness if you're living on the street.
I do believe there's a safe parking program, however, for people who are maybe have a vehicle. Can
Correct.
Somebody talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, we have, Michael, do you want to chat about that? Well, I think Michael dropped off, but we have a program at both 40 Prado, and then we have one also at the Railroad Square, and both of those are administered by CAPSLO, and they're a way for individuals who are living in their vehicles to safely park in a place and have association with the social worker. There again, we're trying to encourage people living in a vehicle shouldn't be a permanent station or place for people, and trying to make sure that people are trying to make some progress. We saw a big impact with COVID. A lot of people who were the working poor living in vehicles, who relied on gyms and friends to be able to shower, they lost access to that. The county opened up the Vets Hall for a number of months. It was very successful. When that program was ended by the county in the end of June, we had people spread throughout our city, and so we reactivated some, particularly the Railroad Square site. We haven't had the uptake, but if you see people who are living in their vehicles, parking on the streets, please do let us know, and we'll reach out to them and let them know about this program.
Thanks, Derek. I also have a flyer that I'll share with Bettina that she can distribute with more information about that program.
Great. Well, thank you very much. I see another probably final question we'll have to take, which is I've called dispatch in the past and the dispatchers have rebuffed the calls for some reason. Can you address that?
Sure. So our dispatchers, one of their jobs is to filter through the calls and to try to get the right service for the right situation. It's a very stressful, challenging job. The phones are ringing all day long. They're also monitoring the radios and talking to the officers on the radios and moving through 7 different screens. I wouldn't be able to do it. It takes a special type of person to be able to do that. So as they are asking you questions, although it may be very direct and to the point, and maybe even come across as not interested or something, I've heard those comments before. They're actually trying as hard as they can to work through the situation as quickly as they can to identify the right resource to send to you to help. And I would say, especially I've worked in other police agencies, and certainly in our police agency here in San Luis PD, we go to a lot of calls for service. We go to, even if they're not law enforcement related, the police department will respond. And so they're really just trying to get the right information, 1, to make sure it's safe, and 2, to get the right resource to you. So have a little patience with them when you call. There's a lot of stuff going on in that dispatch center, and it's not just a call taker just taking your call. That same call taker is the dispatcher running the computer systems and talking to all the officers, and the phones don't stop ringing in there.
Excellent. Okay, everybody, it is now 10:05, and we want to just say thank you to all of our speakers, and thank you to all of you for joining us today. We know this is a complicated topic, and we certainly have not even really begun to scratch the surface yet, but at least now maybe you have a better insight into some of the people who are helping to connect some of our unhoused neighbors with services. And if we hope that this program has been useful to you. We will be posting this on our YouTube channel. So if you found it useful, please share it with your managers or with your other staff. And we'll be sending that out in our member email that goes out to all of our downtown business members. So again, thank you for being here. We look forward to continuing to unwind the problem together. I hope you all have a beautiful Wednesday. And final note, just for Downtown Slow, good news coming up. We are looking forward to bringing our farmers market back on Thursday, May 6th. Very excited about that. It will be in a smaller footprint from Choro to Osos on Higuera with just farmers to begin with. But we're really looking forward to bringing that program back to your downtown. And also in May, we will have the Mayflower Initiative going strong. The flowers are starting to bloom in the windows, and Mission Plaza will also have a pop-up in Mission Plaza, thanks to the city's Promotional Coordinating Committee for their support on that program. So we really hope that with the spring and the flowers blooming in the windows, we're gonna have a good summer. And if you haven't gotten vaccinated, get vaccinated. And thank you for joining us. If you would like to join us on our next response and recovery call, we have those meetings on Monday at 10 a.m. And again, thank you for being with us. We hope to see you around downtown.